Ms. Lewis, you are devastated that after being Daddy's little girl, you are now forced to drag your father to court to prove that you are his biological daughter. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Palmer, you appear in court believing there is no way you are Ms. Lewis's father and claim you've always known you are not her dad.
Yes, Your Honor.
So, Ms. Lewis, how did you first hear from Mr. Palmer that he wasn't your biological father?
By him.
Explain, how did that happen?
We were at his place of business, going about our day one day. And
How old were you?
I believe I was about 13.
Okay. Take me back to that day. I know it's difficult.
He brought all of us together and said he wanted to tell us something, and he wanted me to know that I wasn't his daughter.
And he said that in front of other siblings?
Yes, Your Honor.
How were you processing this at 13 years old?
I didn't. He took me around to talk with my grandmother. She basically was sort of like saying that he was a little unsure, but she felt like I was his daughter.
So your grandmother tried to reassure you?
Yes.
The man you believe to be your biological father just basically came out and said one day, I'm not your father.
Yes, Your Honor.
You're about 13 years old. And up until this point, you were Daddy's little girl.
Yes. We started going to visit him every summer up until the one summer when I was told that he wasn't my dad. We had about maybe 2 or 3 summers before he said it.
That you would spend together?
Yes.
And do things daddies and daughters do and hanging out with your dad, and you had no idea?
No.
Mr. Palmer, do you remember this day that she says you gathered everybody up?
Yes, Your Honor.
Why would you gather everybody up and tell her she's not your biological daughter?
Because I knew all the time she wasn't my daughter, and I just thought it was just time to tell her.
When you say you knew all the time,
Yes, ma'am.
so you were just raising her, why? To be kind?
I had another daughter by her mother, and so I wouldn't do anything for my other daughter that I wouldn't do for her. I was standing up kind of a father.
So what was the nature of your relationship with her mother?
Well, we was inseparable at first. We was gonna get married, but all my friends were saying I'm a fool, for me to think that Margaret Ann was my daughter, that she was going with another guy. She had another friend.
She told me that she wanted to go see her mother, which was supposedly had been in a coma and dying, and she wanted to go see her. Mr. Palmer wouldn't take her, so she had her other friend take her. But she said at that time, she was already pregnant with me. I think she was like 4 months.
I drove by there one day and I saw her out there. He had a '59 Ford, pink and white. I never will forget that. I was in love with her.
What happened with the Ford, the car? What you said you were...
That was her boyfriend's car.
That was the boyfriend's car?
It's in there driving.
Was she in the car when you saw her?
Yes, ma'am.
What did you see?
She laid down, her leg was sticking out the side of the car.
Oh.
She said that wasn't true.
So your mother has denied that to you?
Yes. My mother said it was never nobody else, him only.
I'm starting to understand. What you're saying, Mr. Palmer, you saw her with this old friend, and it was a man.
Yes, ma'am.
But what Ms. Lewis is saying is her mother admitted to that I did ask this man to take me because I wanted to go see my mother because she was dying, but I was already pregnant with Ms. Lewis, with Margaret, before that happened. But what you thought in that moment was she was sleeping with this other gentleman as well.
Yes, Your Honor.
And I can see how deeply this hurts you.
Yeah, because as I told him when he told me that he wasn't my dad, I said, well, if I'm not your daughter, why would you continue to raise me as yours? Because my mom didn't ask you to. She didn't ask you for anything. We reached out. Me and my sister reached out to him.
Well, that's what I'm curious about as well. So at this point where you have this bomb dropped on you at 13 years old, and you're told that he's not your biological father, where does it go from there?
When he told me, I didn't come back. I didn't come back for about 4 years, 3 or 4 years. I think when I came back, I was, 17 when I came back?
Yeah, okay.
So for 3 or 4 summers, you just wouldn't go back?
No, ma'am.
To the farm because you remember him saying, you're not my child. Mm-hmm. And even though your grandmother tried to reassure you, in your heart, what did you feel? You felt rejected?
Yes.
But
yes,
did you still feel like he was your biological father?
Yes, I did. I look just like him. To me, I'm his twin. those ears, that nose, that chin. My grandmother told me there's no other way. When she seen him, she seen my mother. And not to, even when I stayed away, my grandmother, she would call, and she called me a couple of times and spoke with me and told me to come back.
Mr. Palmer, all these years when Ms. Lewis didn't show up year after year after year, how did you feel about that?
It didn't bother me because I knew all the time she wasn't my daughter.
All right, that was honest. If you want more episodes of Paternity Court, make sure to subscribe and click on the notification bell. This hurts Miss Lewis very much, as you can see. Your denial of her. You seem very matter-of-fact about it. Why are you so sure? If you were with her mother, and you admit that, you were very much in love with this woman.
I was in service at the time, Your Honor.
You were in the service at the time?
There's no way I could have, to me, I couldn't get the timing together.
So you're the timing, so you're talking about the window of time that Ms. Lewis would have been conceived.
Yes, ma'am.
You don't feel it adds up.
That's right, Your Honor.
Did you bring any proof of that?
Over here, Your Honor, right here.
I'd like to see it.
From the time I left for war in May 1968.
Let me follow along with you. So this is your timeline. You say you left to go to war.
In May of 68.
May of 68. Let me first say thank you for your service. Then you say you returned 9 or 10 months later. And then Ms. Lewis was born September 6, 1969.
Yes. Yeah, I was drafted to Vietnam in May of 68, and she was born.
So what you're saying is the way that adds up, that Ms. Lewis would have had to been conceived in November of 1968, and that was when you were away.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, so thank you so much, sir. You can step back to the podium. So Ms. Lewis, is September 6, 1969 your birthday?
Yes, Your Honor.
It is, in fact, your birthday.
Yes, Your Honor.
And so when Mr. Palmer outlines this chain of events, his conclusion is that you would have had to been conceived sometime in November of 1968. Mm-hmm. He says he was away at war. What did you hear concerning these events?
I heard that he was home. He was having a relationship with someone else. Kind of sort of the reason why my mom was told that he wasn't my father.
Oh, you were told that he had gotten into a relationship with someone else, and that was another reason why the denial of you began, is because he had moved on to another relationship.
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you remember this, Mr. Palmer?
Yes, Your Honor.
You did. The plot thickens. So after the Ford incident, when you felt like Ms. Lewis's mother had cheated on you, the relationship ended and you moved on with someone else.
Yes, Your Honor.
But you still maintain that you were away at war when Ms. Lewis was conceived.
Well, I calculated it up, I was away.
All right. I'd like to hear from your witness, please, Ms. Lewis. Will you stand?
Yes, ma'am.
Please step over to the podium, sir. State your name for the court.
Jesse Williams.
Mr. Williams, how are you related to Ms. Lewis?
Her brother.
You are her brother.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Do you believe Mr. Palmer is Ms. Lewis's biological father?
Yes, ma'am, I do. I was there. I was there when he told her that he was not her father, but I believe that.
Oh, you were there on that day at the farm?
Yes, ma'am, I was. Yes, Your Honor.
So Mr. Palmer is your father.
Yes,
He's
Your
your
Honor.
biological father.
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Palmer, you do not dispute that you are Mr. Williams' biological father.
No, I don't, Your Honor.
You don't.
He's saying that he was not there, but I feel like he was because I have another sibling that was born around the same time she was born.
You do?
Yes, Your Honor.
How far apart are this sibling and Ms. Lewis in terms of birth?
We're 8 days apart. I was born September the 6th, 1969. My brother was born September 14th, 1969. So if he was here to conceive him, he was here to conceive me.
her.
In my court folder, I do in fact have a birth certificate for another sibling, born the 14th day of September, 1969.
Yes, Your Honor.
Which would just be 8 days after your birth.
Yes, Your Honor.
And it says the father is Mr. and Mrs. Jesse Palmer.
That was his wife, Your Honor.
Mr. Palmer,
Yes, Your Honor.
I've got a birth certificate in the court record here for another child of yours, born to you and your wife, born September 14th, 1969, just 8 days after when Ms. Lewis was born.
That's right, Your Honor.
So if you were there to conceive this child, why wouldn't you be there to conceive that child?
I probably got home on a leave or something like that. I left on leave. I don't know exactly. I can't remember exactly how it was, but
So they're born 8 days apart. If you conceive that child, and you don't dispute it, why are you disputing that you could have conceived along with her mother, Ms. Lewis?
because we didn't have no relationship at the time.
Oh, you were saying that you were not in a relationship and you were not having sex or sleeping with or intimate with Ms. Lewis's mom during that window of time.
That's right, Your Honor.
He know he's my father. I know he's my father.
You've lived your entire life with him basically denying you.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, Your Honor.
What has he missed?
He missed out on a whole lot. He missed out on my graduations. I wanted my daddy to walk me down the aisle when I got married. He wasn't there for that. I have 5 girls and 1 son. And that 1 son I had, I would have loved for my dad to be there. And he wasn't there. But I know this turnout is gonna be, I'm his child. And all I wanna say to him, if I may, is that once we get this, can I please not hear that no more?
Yeah.
Please. Because I've always looked at you as my daddy. No matter, even when you told me you wasn't my daddy. You my daddy.
It's okay.
How has it affected the children? They don't have a relationship with the man you believe is their grandfather.
Right. We've just became into a relationship these last 4-5 years because I moved back home.
Okay.
And I did that because my dad was sick, and I came back and I wanted to make sure my kids knew who he was, and he knew who they was, because we not promised tomorrow. And he's getting older and I'm getting older. So I wanted them to know who their grandfather was. Even though he says that, I wasn't his child, I still wanted them to know.
So, Mr. Palmer, when you hear this testimony, and we've uncovered the fact that you do have another child that's born during the same window of time, 1 week after Ms. Lewis, does it change your belief at all?
No, I know what I know, and I know I wasn't having no relationship with her mother at the time. Those 8 days.
So you're still 100% certain that you are not Ms. Lewis's biological father?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. I think the only way we're going to really get the answers we need is to have the results. Jerome, I'm ready.
There you go.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
These results were prepared by DNA Diagnostics, and they read as follows. In the case of Lewis versus Palmer, when it comes to 46-year-old Margaret Lewis, it has been determined by this court, Mr. Palmer, you are her father.
I told you. Now, don't you say that to me no more. We got them papers.
Okay.
We needed that.
Yes, we did.
In Your Honor, if I may, I really believe this came from and stemmed from him not knowing who his father is. And he took it out on me. Because I was on my daddy. Because I hadn't seen my daddy, I didn't know who my daddy was. And I believe I put so much pressure on him, it brought him to this place.
I'm very happy that I could give you the news that you wanted and the clarity, Mr. Palmer, that you needed. at the end of the day, it's about so much more than that. And I think that's what your daughter so eloquently stated. It's about breaking generational curses. You didn't know your father or have a relationship. And then that curse was passed down to this young lady. And it almost got passed down again to another generation, her children, because they almost didn't have a relationship with you. But for her unconditional love, even through your denial, you wouldn't have known those grandchildren. Mr. Carroll, you are here to prove to your ex-girlfriend, Ms. Goggans, that you are the biological father of her 26-year-old daughter, Shirletha Carroll.
Yes, Your Honor.
You say when your daughter was 5 years old, the defendant told you another man was her father, but you refused to believe it.
Yes, Your Honor.
Ms. Goggans, you claim that you had a one-night stand and he is your daughter's real father.
Yes, Your Honor.
So, Mr. Carroll, what will these results mean for you today?
Oh, it mean an awful lot because it's been many years that done went.
I understand, sir. Take your time.
And I know I love Lily. I always try to embed it in her that she my daughter. Can't nobody tell me otherwise. This is my daughter, and it's been.
And so, all of these years, you never had doubt.
No, and I never, and truthfully, I've never been emotional like this either. So it really means a lot for me to find out now that Lily is my daughter. Because in my heart, I know she's mine. I know she's my daughter. I always told her she was my daughter.
So, Ms. Goggans, you say you had a one-night stand and you're so sure that this one-night stand is your daughter's father. Why are you so certain?
With Jesse, we were basically broken up, and then I end up going to her father saying that I needed someone to talk to, so me and him end up having sex, and I knew that it was
the one-night stand,
the hairdresser, and he said that I told him 5 years later, which it wasn't 5 years later, because when I was pregnant with her, I mentioned to him that I'm pregnant by the hairdresser. I'm not having your baby.
So you said it from the beginning?
I said it from the beginning.
Mr. Carroll, when do you remember hearing this for the first time?
She never told me that. I tell you for a fact, she never told me that.
Yes, I did.
No, you never told me
yes,
that.
I did. I told you that I am pregnant by someone else, and you didn't want it to believe it. Maybe it hurted you because I had sex with someone else, but I've told you that I was not pregnant by you.
She never told me that. Never.
Yes, I did.
Never did she tell me that because.
So I want to know your recollection.
She never told me.
Give me the first time you remember hearing that Shirletha may not be your child.
First of all, me and Tina at that time was still in a relationship. It was just shaky. Lily was 5 years old, and she came over my mother's house, and she told me that she had something to tell me. And then she told Lily would go off. She's 5, so she's trying to go off or whatever. She was like, "No, Lily, I want Lily to hear this." You know, when she told me Lily was not my daughter, Lily was standing right there because I will never forget the face that she had. The expression on her face when she said
That's not true. I've been told that's not true.
What you say?
I'm sorry, what did you say,
I never did that in
What
front
did
of
you
her
say,
with you
Shirletha?
saying she's not your daughter.
Well, I do recall we went over there one day and it was a discussion about me not being his daughter and, you know.
In front of you?
Yes, ma'am.
Right there. And what did I say, Lily?
What do you remember hearing?
I mean, I just recall that it was just arguments, arguing.
And then what do you remember me saying to you at the end, when it's all said and done, what did I say?
I mean, he always has stated to me that he's my dad.
That's
so,
right.
You know,
I don't deny that. He always did say that. I'm not denying that. And it wasn't 5 years later that you found out that Shirletha was yours. When you came in the delivery room with me, you seen her and you said, "Wow, whose baby is this? She's so white." I knew from there that who Shirletha belonged to.
No.
After I left the hospital with Shirletha, I said, "Shirletha is not your child. You never wanted to listen to me saying that it wasn't your child."
Who's on the birth certificate?
I received the birth certificate. I seen Jesse's name. I did not never sign the bottom to agree with what was on the birth certificate. So when it came
You
to
have the birth
mail,
certificate?
Let
me see that.
I have a
Jerome.
birth certificate too.
I have a birth certificate right
So
here
you're
with me.
saying, Miss Goggans, when you were in the hospital after having Shirletha, you didn't say to him, Mr. Carroll, you need to sign this birth certificate,
No.
or are you going?
No.
You didn't even talk about it. You
I
weren't going to
just
ask
delivered
him.
the baby. I wasn't thinking about none of that. So when that birth certificate came, I seen Jesse's name on it. I never signed the bottom, so I'm like, I don't know why his name on there. I didn't put it on there.
So, Mr. Carroll, you signed this birth certificate
Right.
because when you're in the hospital, you don't have any doubt.
None. And everything.
So during the time when Sharletha was conceived, you don't remember there being an instant where did you know she had the one-night stand?
Oh yeah. Now she did tell me that she had an affair with the hairdresser down in our relationship, but 5
Oh,
years.
I told you I was pregnant by the hairdresser.
No, never did you tell me that.
Yes, I did.
She never
I
told me.
told you way ahead of
Listen.
time. I'm pregnant by the hairdresser. This is not your baby I'm carrying.
Okay,
you
listen.
don't know what you're talking about. I always told you I'm not carrying your baby. I told you that before I had her.
Listen,
So hold on now. Mr. Carroll, were you just not wanting to hear this?
Well, I mean.
Or were you?
No, because like I said, everything that she's saying, as far as what she's saying to me now, never was like that.
That's
She was
not
my girlfriend.
True. It was
Like I
a
said, at
denial
that time-
because he couldn't believe that little Tina had another baby by somebody else.
She never said that. I always thought Lily was mine from my heart to the day. I love Lily. She's my daughter. That's why I'm here today, to show people that Lily is
She
mine.
doesn't look like you. She looks
and
just
on
like
top of
her
that,
dad.
Look, she got my name on that birth certificate. That's my name. She got my name.
You put
I
it on
named
there without
Lily.
my consent.
I gave Lily that name, Lily. That nickname, I done that. Lily was my daughter. Lily was my daughter. That's my nickname. That Sharletha is my family. That's her name from my family.
But it didn't come from
saying?
you.
It's my people in my family,
No,
though.
it's not. It don't
My
matter
family,
whose
my
family it
sister-in-law.
came from. Sharletha
No, and anyway,
came
like I
from
said, that's
this
my
girl
daughter.
So
named
wait, let me
Sharletha. They
understand
asked
this.
me
So
to name
after
her
she was
dad.
born, in the early parts of her life, you were there as her father.
I was there.
You was
I
just there too
but
because
I
you
was
did
there.
not
I
provide.
was there.
So
With all that, I
you
was
just
there.
was
I was
there.
there. I was
That's
there for
all
her.
you was
I was
there.
there. She was my daughter. She was around me. I did a lot. I was come from the street life, so a lot of times I wasn't like I should have been. I'm here for Lily as her father, and if she ever need anything from me, if I could provide it for her, she can get it.
Okay, but you was there. You said that being a daddy takes more than saying I'm a daddy.
So in the
you
bottom
have to
of my,
provide
from the bottom
also
of my heart,
materially.
from the bottom of my heart, like I said, this happened
So,
years ago.
Ms. Goggans,
It's still
are you
to this
saying
day
that
he don't
are you
provide,
saying that he's
so-
not the father because he hasn't stepped up as a father, because he hasn't provided? Or are you saying that he's not the father because he's really not the biological father in your mind?
He's not the father of my child right here. The hairdresser is, and I always told her that.
You did. So I want to hear from Sharletha. You have heard a lot of discussion thus far, Sharletha, and I know it's probably difficult to hear, but I want to understand what your thoughts were growing up. Were you always told by your mom that Mr. Carroll was not your biological father and this other gentleman was?
Your Honor, yes, I have, but to be honest, Jesse haven't been in my life. You know, I'm just going off of pictures. You know, basically, pictures, he was there. He was with me as the father, with me and my sister. He was in the home as a family. But as time went on, I was with the other guy, which I have proof right here. I was with his family.
You do. Let me see that proof you have.
I was with his family. I was over there through holidays, everything.
And this other gentleman, you were with this man and his family through holidays and family functions, and you were...
I mean, yes, basically, I used to live
You
there.
believed he was your biological father?
Yes.
And Your Honor, if I could say too that with Lily, like I said, when this incident happened, when she was 5 years old, when she announced that to me, and Lily was right there in my face when she had said that, after saw that, Lily, she brought Lily up in that man's side. You see, so Lily didn't spend as much time with my family because she had in her head, in her mind, that wasn't my baby. So Lily was going, that's why she had her this Christmases or whatever she was doing with them people.
All right, but do you understand that throughout her life, I'm looking at pictures now of Sharletha when she was a little girl. This is a lot of pictures.
I was with the other guy's family. I went there for holidays, you know. Basically, in middle school, that's like I say, I got the birth certificate and Jesse was on it. So, I don't know.
And so you found the birth certificate, and saw that Mr. Carroll's name was on your birth certificate.
Yes.
And yet you've got all these family photos where you spent time with this other guy that you thought was your biological father.
Yes, I was there.
Did
all
you
the time.
ask a question like, why does my birth certificate have Mr. Carroll on it?
Yes, I did. I asked my mom once I got the birth certificate and seen that he was on there. I asked her, and basically she said, ask the other guy. She told me, ask the other guy why he's not on there, you know. And
did you ever ask him?
no, I never asked him. I never asked him why he wasn't on my birth certificate because I was young. I was there, you know. I was there. As him being my dad, I was with his family. I used to live there as in middle school. I went to school from there, you know, and basically I'm just going off what my mom said. But, you know, it always was thrown in my face, you know, he would be, Jesse, when he came to the graduation, I was there. Quintina came along. She would always say, that's not your daughter. I don't know why you doing all this and that, you know. She ain't your daughter, so why you claiming her?
Now, see, and through all that Lily going through and what she's talking about, Your Honor, all that she's talking about, I always still embedded in Lily that I'm her daddy, regardless. See, so I was always there, even though she went through and what she's going through or whatever, it was with her mother, totally. So I would see Lily sometime.
Mr. Carroll, I'd like to hear from your witness. Ma'am, would you please stand? State your name, ma'am.
Quintina Carroll.
Miss Carroll, you are Mr. Carroll's wife? Okay. What do you know about this situation? Have you always had the understanding that you had a stepdaughter, your husband had a daughter? Or did you have doubt as to whether or not Shalithia was really his biological child?
Your Honor, Shalithia is not his daughter. Tina told him, Ms. Goggans told him, she told him years ago that she was not his daughter. And the only way I would know, because I came into the situation after the 5-year period, somewhere in there, which was I never would say anything like that to Shalithia.
But
why?
she did.
Because I
She
have
did.
my own children.
She
I'm
did.
the one brought us here today because I think she should know. I said, let's do this because I'm tired of the conflict. I mean, and then her mother says she's told her that all the time. I found a letter that she wrote to my husband and said, thank you for accepting our daughters. But she says she constantly told him that.
So you're saying you saw a letter that Ms. Goggans wrote to your husband, Mr. Carroll, saying, thank you for accepting our daughters.
Daughters with an S. And this was in the midst of our dating. We attended graduation. So I approached Miss Goggans and said, is Lily his daughter? She said, no. And everyone was present.
So she said it out loud to everyone in the family
Yes.
at the graduation?
Yes.
Shalithia, is there something you wanted to add to this?
Well, Your Honor, to be honest, I just want to know the truth. I don't want to be like an outcast, no black sheep, none of that. I just want to know the truth. Who is my father?
And I want her to know that, Your Honor. That's why I tried to get us here, and I'm glad that everyone was willing to participate because I have children. She knew my children.
Right.
So when you say you don't want to be the black sheep, Shalithia, why do you say that?
Because I don't know. Basically, Quintina, his wife, always said I wasn't his daughter. So she didn't want.
Mother said it.
Going off of Quintina, she always says, that ain't your daughter. Why you giving her recognition? Why you doing this? Why you doing that? She don't even know me, you know?
So the point is you feel that disconnect that
Correct.
she's talking about.
Correct.
All right. Well, we have the answers for you. It's time for the results. Jerome? These results were prepared by DNA Diagnostics, and they read as follows. In the case of Carroll versus Goggans, when it comes to 26-year-old Shalithia Carroll, it has been determined by this court. Mr. Carroll You are her father.
My baby. I know it. I'm planning to. Oh my God! I told you, girl. I told you. You tell the truth. Sorry. Oh, Lily, I'm so sorry. This is wonderful. This is what we've been waiting on.
Wow, finally got it over. My daughter, baby. You are my daughter.
That's your daddy, girl.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How's it feel, honey?
This is crazy. I'm hurt.
It's relief that he is your father. And you don't have to hear nobody else say nothing negative. Me included.
I am here, 51 years old, and all these years that went by, I can imagine how my daughter feeling.
I could see in your eyes you really didn't think Mr. Carroll was your daughter's father.
No, because she expressed this. Oh, I'm talking about.
It was like back to back with both. So I'm glad to know the truth myself.
I think we're at a place right now, and I love this picture of all of you on this side of the aisle.
And I thank you, Judge Lauren Lake, because I knew you would get the bottom to that. I knew you would.
Ms. Gelntser, you have opened your case today because you say your life has been in turmoil since the moment you learned you were pregnant with twins. You are convinced your husband fathered your 8-month-old son, Richard, but you also believe your boyfriend, Mr. Stacy, fathered your son's twin sister, Raylan. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Ramey, you state there is no way you fathered either one of your wife's twins and intend to prove that today. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Stacy, you believe you fathered both twins.
Yes, Your Honor.
Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. Ms. Gelntser, please tell the court how your life has been in turmoil.
For the fact of the matter that I'm still married to John, that I am in a relationship with Scotty, and just everything's been upside down, not knowing who with the twins.
And now you believe your fraternal twins have 2 different fathers.
That they possibly could have 2 different fathers.
Wow. Mr. Ramey,
Yes, Your Honor.
you don't believe you fathered either one of your wife's children.
Your Honor, I do not with these twins. They don't resemble my 2 biological children that I have with Miss Gelntser.
Okay. How did we get into this confusion with conception?
December 15th, John, Keisha, Scotty, and I was at the house, and Scotty and John were working on the bathroom to get it fixed up.
So your boyfriend and your husband were working on the bathroom?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay.
And after they had gotten the floor put down, Scotty went into our room, was playing his games in our room. Keisha was in the living room, watching TV, I guess. And John said, come look at the bathroom. He said, we got to talk about the kids, close the door. And then one thing led to another, and we had sex.
Do you remember that day, Mr. Ramey?
I remember the day, Your Honor. I don't really remember it exactly as she told this story, but me and Samantha were married.
But do you remember having sex with your
Yes.
wife in the bathroom?
Yes, Your Honor.
With her boyfriend in the bedroom playing video games?
I don't know what he was doing, Your Honor. I just know that what her and I were doing.
So, Ms. Gelntser, how did Mr. Stacy, your boyfriend, find out that you had sex with your husband?
I guess he had to use the bathroom or whatever, because he went up to the bathroom and he had heard me and John together, and he said, I can't do this, and he walked out. And when he walked out, we got finished. He left with Keisha.
So wait a minute, you got finished, you finished the act?
Yes, Your Honor. I was addicted to John.
Mr. Stacy, so you knock on the door, you there laying floor, and Mr. Ramey laying something else. So you knock on the door. What happens? Tell me what you remember.
I knocked on the door. I heard them. I said I was done, and I walked out. Started walking down the road.
Did you know they were having sex? What did you hear?
You could hear them.
So you knew immediately?
Yes.
And you just said, I'm done, and you left?
Yes.
And then, Miss Gelntser, when do you reconnect with Mr. Stacy?
After John and Keisha had left the house that night, went and picked him up from walking up the road and brought him back to the house and told him I was sorry and asked him to stay.
And then how soon after that do you start having sex with Mr. Stacy again?
It was that night.
Oh, right after you have sex with your husband, you have sex with your boyfriend?
Not right after. I mean, it was that evening that it happened. But Scotty had left the next day, said he was going to his mom's, that he thought about it, he couldn't do it, and then I went and picked John up and brought him back to the house.
And have sex with him?
Yes, Your Honor.
So within the span of 24 hours, you've had sex with your husband twice and your boyfriend once?
Yes.
Wow.
He understands my relationship with John. When I first got with Scotty, my thing was, John, the boys come first over anything. John has been my rock, and he will always be my rock. And I just thought that's how I would get him back. At that time, I did love Scotty, but I was in love with this man.
Okay, so right now you're just being honest. The truth is you're in love with your husband. But in the meantime, since he was with somebody else, you started dating Mr. Stacy because he's nice and...
He's wonderful. I mean, he's been there since day one, even after he knew what happened.
So take me to the day you find out you're pregnant, Miss Gelntser. Oh, my goodness. When you find out you're pregnant, what happened? What happened that day?
Scotty was the first one to find out that I was pregnant, other than my aunt and my uncle. I did not tell nobody else until I told John when he called, and I said, John, I'm pregnant. And he said, what do you want me to do about it? And I said, well, you do know that there's a possibility that they're yours. And he said, there's no way. And I said, yeah, John, we slept together on the 15th and 16th. I said, they can be yours.
So how did you get a conception date from the doctor?
It was September 17th was the final due date.
And from that, you calculated, or they calculated, a window of conception?
Yes, and when they gave me the due date, they also gave me a paper stating that baby A, which was Richard, was 5 weeks and 2 days, and Raylan was 5 weeks and 4 days.
Ah, and that was how many weeks, days after you had slept with both of them?
I was 5.5 weeks pregnant.
And so the timeline pointed directly back to both men because you've been honest, you were intimate with both men on the same day.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, Your Honor.
In the same 24-hour period?
Yes, Your Honor.
So who was with you when you gave birth?
Scotty was there.
And you're there when the babies are born?
Yes.
Do you sign the birth certificate?
No.
Nobody's on the birth certificate.
Well, you couldn't because she's legally married to Mr. Ramey.
Correct.
Correct.
All right. So
I'm sorry that I put you guys through this. I really am.
Well, they put themselves through it too. Once he was put on notice that you were back with your husband, he was leaving, but he came back.
Yeah, but you know, to be all honest, I've been with these men together. Okay, I mean, I'm not going to be thrown under the bus with this.
I forgot about that. Yes,
I mean, I was with them together, and I just want answers for my children because they deserve to know, and John and Scotty deserve to know.
So I need to be clear. Did you state that you had a threesome with your husband and your boyfriend?
Yes, I did. And Scotty did it because he loved me, and I did it because I love John.
What in God's name? And so now you could have twins with 2 different fathers. How does that feel?
It's heartbreaking that my children are going to have to pay for my mistakes. It's not fair to him, and it's not fair to Scotty, and it's definitely not fair to the twins because they didn't ask for their mother to lay on her back.
You opened this case because you believe your husband is the father of one twin and your boyfriend is the father of the other.
Yes.
Please explain why you believe your husband is Richard's father.
Richard has the same birthmark that my son Jonathan had. Richard looks like Jonathan when he was a baby, which Jonathan looks like John when he was a baby. So in turns, Richard looks like John when he was a baby.
Okay, so Mr. Ramey, I want to ask you, do you see the resemblance? Do you believe you could possibly be Richard's biological father?
Possibly, yes, but I do not think that I am. I just don't see the resemblance of myself in the babies when I see them. I don't.
And this is you holding both twins.
Yes, at their home.
At their house.
Yes, Your Honor.
So, Mr. Stacy, you believe these are your twins?
Yes, Your Honor.
Both of them?
Both of them.
And how do you feel when you see Mr. Ramey holding the twins?
It does bother me a little bit.
I'm surprised you even let him come up in your house anymore after the bathroom incident. I'm just saying. Can you tell the court why you believe Raylan is Mr. Stacy's?
Her mannerisms, she's very quiet, laid back. You know, you don't mess with her, she don't mess with you, same as Scotty is. And she just favors Scotty. The shape of her head, she looks like Scotty to me.
And so as you've held your twins, taken care of them, they're 8 months old, you look in their faces and you literally see two different men as their fathers.
I do.
I feel your energy, and it's like you are so conflicted. If it was a perfect world and you could wave your magic wand and choose the life and the partner you wanted, who would you be with?
I'd be with John. I mean, you said in a perfect world, we wouldn't be here. In a perfect world, we wouldn't have been separated.
Do you think your relationship with your new girlfriend can survive if one or both of the twins are yours?
I really don't know, but that's not my main concern. It's about the babies.
Yeah.
You know?
Yes.
I mean, hopefully it does. I mean, because I love her very much. But at the same time, they're innocent, and if I am their dad, I've got to be there and handle that.
See, when he said, I love her very much, you closed your eyes and just nodded your head like you didn't want to hear that.
I don't like the girl. I mean, I like her as a person, but I don't like her that she's my husband's girlfriend. You know, we were friends at one point.
Ma'am, I'd like to hear from you. Please stand. Step over to the podium and state your name for the court.
Keisha Atkins.
Miss Atkins, you are Mr. Ramey's current girlfriend.
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you believe your boyfriend is the father of one or both of these twins?
No, 100% no, I do not believe that these kids are his. And
you weren't in there when that happened, Keisha. I mean, how are you going to say no, it's not?
Because they do not resemble Sammy. They do not resemble my John at all. Neither one of them do.
He does resemble John because he looks just like John.
No, he doesn't.
Okay. You have your opinion, I have mine.
Exactly.
Miss Atkins, do you believe Mr. Stacy is the father of one or both of the twins?
No, I do not.
Oh.
Really?
Yes, really.
So you're saying you don't believe either man's the father?
No.
Well, I declare, as my grandmother would say. Ma'am, thank you for your testimony. You may be seated. All right, well, that was an earful. The only way we are going to figure our way out of this is to get the results. We need the truth. Jerome, may I have the envelope, please?
Yes,
I love you both, and I'm sorry regardless what this stuff says.
No matter what it says, Sammy, you know, it's because we're not together. You know, I'm always going to love you. You're the mom of my kids, and I'll always be here. But the main thing is, at least we'll know for the babies.
All right. This result is for Raylan. And just to be clear, you believe Mr. Stacy, your boyfriend, is Raylan's biological father.
Yes.
Because fraternal twins could have different biological fathers, we performed individual paternity tests on Richard and Raylan. In the case of Gelntser versus Ramey, when it comes to 8-month-old Raylan Ramey, it has been determined by this court the biological father is Mr. Stacy. The next result is for Richard, and in this case, Ms. Gelntser, you believe Mr. Ramey, your husband, is Richard's biological father. These are the results. In the case of Gelntser versus Ramey, when it comes to 8-month-old Richard Ramey, it has been determined by this court the biological father is Mr. Stacy.
Now tell me I was sleeping with somebody else.
I'm happy for the children that they know who their biological father is. But I am concerned because when I read those results, Miss Gelntser, you wanted those babies to be your husbands. I know what I know what I know. It's about the animosity you have towards her because she's got your man. Let's just call it the way I see it. Sometimes we just have to call a spade a spade.
No, now me and Scotty can go on with our life.
No, but you're not on with your life.
This was him.
Because let me tell you something. If a man looks at me and somebody says, if you can wave a magic wand and tell me who you'd be with, and he names another woman's name, we got a problem. Nobody wants to live their life knowing they're somebody's runner-up.